The night I finally learned the truth, I was sitting alone at my kitchen table. The house was quiet in a way that felt heavy, not peaceful. I remember holding my cup of tea with both hands, even though it had already gone cold. That was the night everything I believed for 15 years slowly came apart. For a long time, I told myself I was ready for answers. I told myself I had made peace with the past. But when the truth finally came, I realized I had only learned how to survive without it. I had not learned how to face it. 15 years earlier, she walked out of our lives. No long goodbye, no real explanation, just a closed door and a silence that stretched longer than I ever imagined it could. Her name was Danielle. She was my wife. She was the mother of our children. And one morning, she was just gone. People think when someone leaves, it happens in a loud way. Arguments, shouting, broken things. But our ending was quiet, and that made it harder. When I woke up that day, the sun was already up. Danielle's side of the bed was empty, cold to the touch. At first, I thought she had gone to the store or taken an early walk. She liked quiet mornings. But the house felt different, too still, like it was holding its breath. Her shoes were gone from the doorway, her coat was missing from the hook by the door, and when I checked the closet, half her clothes were gone. I stood there for a long time, not moving, not thinking clearly, just staring at the empty space where her life used to hang. On the kitchen counter, there was a folded note, my name written in her handwriting. That was the moment my hands started to shake. The note was short, too short for a goodbye. It said she needed time. It said she had to leave. It said she was sorry. That was all. No reason, no promise to return, no explanation for our children. I read that note over and over, hoping more words would appear. They never did. Our kids were still asleep then. Marcus was 12, Aaliyah was 9. They were old enough to feel everything, but too young to understand any of it. I sat on the edge of the bed and listened to them breathing from down the hall, and I remember thinking, how do I explain this without breaking them? For weeks, I told people Danielle needed space, that she was visiting family, that she would call soon. I told the kids the same thing. I smiled when I said it. I smiled even when my chest felt tight and painful. At night, after the kids went to sleep, I would sit in the living room with the lights off. I would listen for a car pulling into the driveway. I would imagine her key turning in the lock. It never did. Days turned into weeks. Weeks turned into months, and the silence stayed. Danielle did not call. She did not write. She did not ask about the kids. At first, I was angry, then confused, then tired in a way sleep could not fix. I started doing everything alone, packing lunches, helping with homework, sitting in the front row at school events, trying to clap loud enough for 2 parents. Marcus stopped asking where his mother was after the first year. Aaliyah asks for longer. Sometimes she would ask in the middle of the night, her voice small and careful. "Did I do something wrong?" she would say. I would hold her close and tell her no. I would tell her this was not her fault. And every time, I wondered if I was lying, even though I didn't know how. People had their opinions. Some said Danielle was selfish. Some said she must have found someone else. Others said I must have driven her away. I listened to all of it in silence, because the truth was, I didn't know anything at all. Years passed. The kids grew taller, their voices changed. Our lives slowly found a new rhythm. I learned how to cook meals Danielle used to make. I learned how to braid Aaliyah's hair. Badly at first, then better. I learned how to talk to Marcus about things his mother used to handle. From the outside, we looked like we were doing fine, and in many ways we were. But inside, there was always a question sitting quietly in my chest. Why did she leave? Why didn't she come back? Why didn't she fight for us? 15 years is a long time to carry unanswered questions. You learn to fold them away. You learn to live around them. I told myself I didn't need the truth anymore, that whatever reason she had was her own, that knowing wouldn't change anything. I believed that, until the day I didn't. It started with a phone call I almost didn't answer, an unknown number, late in the evening. I remember looking at the screen and feeling a strange tightness in my chest. Something told me this call mattered. When I answered, there was a pause on the other end. Then a familiar voice I had not heard in 15 years said my name. "Caleb," she said softly. In that moment, time folded in on itself. The kitchen around me blurred, and every year of silence suddenly came rushing back. That was the beginning of the truth, not all at once, but slowly, painfully. And as I listened to her speak, I realized something that scared me more than the silence ever had. I wasn't sure I was ready to hear why she really left us. When Danielle said my name on the phone, I did not answer right away. I held the phone close to my ear and listened to her breathing. It sounded older somehow, careful, like she was afraid I might hang up. "I don't know why I'm calling now," she said. I couldn't keep carrying this alone." Her words moved slowly, like she was choosing each one with care. I leaned back in my chair and closed my eyes. 15 years disappeared in that moment, but the pain stayed right where it was. I asked her how she was. It felt strange, asking something so simple after so long. She said she was fine. I could hear the lie in her voice. We did not talk long that night. She said she wanted to explain everything, but not over the phone. She asked if we could meet. I told her I needed time to think. That part was true. After we hung up, I sat there for a long time. The house was still quiet, the same quiet I had lived with for years. I did not tell the kids about the call right away. Marcus was grown now, living on his own. Aaliyah had just started her first real job. They had built lives without their mother. I wasn't sure if I had the right to disturb that. For days, I carried Danielle's voice with me, at work, in the car, standing in the grocery store aisle, staring at shelves without seeing them. Memories started rising up, not the big ones, but the small ones I had buried. The way Danielle used to get quiet when she was upset, the way she smiled when she didn't want to explain something. Back then, I thought I was being patient by not pushing. Now, I wondered if I had been blind. I agreed to meet her a week later. We chose a small cafe on the other side of town, neutral ground, a place that did not belong to our past. The morning of the meeting, my hands shook as I buttoned my shirt. I looked at myself in the mirror and barely recognized the man staring back. Older, tired, still carrying the same questions. She was already there when I arrived, sitting by the window. Her hair was shorter now, touched with gray. She looked smaller than I remembered. When she saw me, she stood up slowly. For a second, we just looked at each other. So much history sitting between us, heavy and unspoken. "Thank you for coming," she said. Her voice was low, respectful. I nodded and sat across from her. The table felt too small for everything we needed to say. At first, we talked about safe things, work, the weather, how fast time passes. Then she asked about the kids, her hands wrapped tightly around her cup. I told her Marcus was doing well, that Aaliyah was strong and smart, that they had grown up without her. She closed her eyes for a moment. A tear slipped out, but she wiped it away quickly. Still careful, still holding back. "I never stopped thinking about them," she said. I didn't know how to come back." That sentence sat between us, heavy and incomplete. I asked her why she left. Not loudly, not angrily, just honestly. She looked down at the table. Her fingers traced the edge of her cup. For a long time, she did not speak. "I was afraid," she finally said. That was not the answer I expected. Not the whole one, anyway. She told me she had felt trapped back then. Not by us, she said, but by something she didn't know how to name at the time. She said she felt like she was disappearing inside herself, that every day felt heavier than the last, that leaving felt like the only way to breathe. I listened quietly. Part of me wanted to believe her. Another part felt the old ache rise up. I asked her why she didn't tell me, I asked. She shook her head slowly. "I didn't know how, and I didn't think you would understand." That hurt more than I expected, not because she left, but because she never gave me the chance to stay. We talked for hours that day. She explained pieces of her life after she left, how she moved cities, how she worked different jobs, how she lived alone. But there were gaps in her story, moments she rushed through, questions she avoided. I noticed it even as I tried not to. When we stood to leave, she touched my arm lightly. "I want to tell you everything," she said, "just not all at once." I nodded, even though something inside me tightened. 15 years of silence taught me how to wait, but it had not taught me how to trust. After that meeting, the past felt closer than ever. Memories came back stronger, sharper. I started remembering moments that felt small back then. Arguments that never finished, conversations that ended too early. I wondered what else I had missed, what else Danielle had carried alone. When I finally told the kids she had reached out, their reactions were different. Marcus was quiet. His jaw tightened, but he said nothing. Aaliyah cried, not loudly, just steady tears that seemed to come from somewhere deep. "She doesn't get to explain now, not after all this time," Aaliyah said. I didn't argue with her. I didn't defend Danielle. I just listened. Inside, I felt torn in two directions. Part of me wanted answers for myself. Another part wanted to protect my children from reopening old wounds. Danielle called again a few days later, then again the week after that. Each time she shared a little more, and each time I felt like there was still something she was holding back. The truth was coming closer. I could feel it. But I also felt something else growing, a fear that the truth might not bring peace, that it might explain everything and still change nothing. And as the weeks passed, I began to realize this story was bigger than just her leaving. There was more, something hidden, something that had shaped all our lives without us knowing. And I was slowly walking toward it, one careful step at a time. After my second meeting with Danielle, sleep became difficult. Not because of anger, not because of hope, but because my mind would not stay quiet. At night, the house felt too large again. Every sound seemed louder, the ticking clock, the hum of the refrigerator, the soft wind brushing against the windows. I would lie there thinking about the years we lost, about the mornings I made breakfast alone, about the nights I sat at the kitchen table after the kids went to bed, staring at nothing. Danielle's voice stayed with me, soft, careful, full of pauses. I realized something slowly, something I did not want to admit at first. She was not just afraid back then. She was hiding. The next time we met, it was raining, a steady, quiet rain that made the streets shine. We sat in my car for a moment before going inside the cafe, watching the drops slide down the windshield. "I don't want to rush you," she said, "but there's something you need to know." I turned the engine off and looked at her. My chest felt tight, but I stayed calm. "You can tell me," I said. She took a deep breath, then another. Her hands rested in her lap, fingers pressed together. "When I left," she said slowly, "it wasn't just because I was unhappy. I waited. I had learned how to wait. There was someone else," she continued. "Not like that, not an affair. I felt my stomach drop anyway. Pain does not always listen to logic. He was someone from my past, she said, someone I never fully escaped. She explained that before we married, before the kids, she had been involved with a man who controlled her life, not with fists, with fear. He watched where she went. He decided who she talked to. He made her feel small without ever raising his voice. I sat very still as she spoke. Each word felt like a piece of a puzzle falling into place. She said she thought marriage would save her, that starting a family would finally break his hold. For a while, it did, but then he found her again. He showed up one day, she said, just standing across the street like nothing had changed. Her voice trembled for the first time, not loud, just fragile. He said he would ruin everything, she whispered, if I didn't leave. I felt a wave of anger rise up, but I pushed it down. This was not about my feelings yet. This was about understanding. "Why didn't you tell me?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "I was ashamed and afraid. I thought if you knew, you would see me as weak." That hurt, but I could also hear the truth in her fear. She said he threatened to hurt me, to hurt the kids. She said leaving felt like the only way to keep us safe. I leaned back in my seat and stared at the rain. So many questions finally had shapes now. "You disappeared without a word," I said. "I thought you didn't care." She began to cry then, not loudly, just quietly, like someone who had been holding it in for years. "I cared too much," she said. "That was the problem." We sat there in silence after that. The rain filled the space between us. I believed her, or at least I believed she believed her version of the truth. But something still did not sit right. Over the next few weeks, I noticed how careful she was with details. She never used names. She never mentioned dates. When I asked where the man was now, she changed the subject. When I asked why she never tried to contact the kids, her answers stayed vague. One evening, Marcus came over unannounced. He sat at the kitchen table, hands folded, eyes serious. "I met her," he said. My heart skipped. "When?" "Yesterday," he replied. "She showed up at my job." That made my chest tighten. "She said she wanted to explain," he continued, "but she didn't say much." He looked up at me then. "Dad, she's scared, but she's also hiding something." I nodded slowly. "I feel that too." Aaliyah refused to meet Danielle. She said she was not ready. I did not push her. One night, while cleaning out an old drawer, I found something I had forgotten about. A small envelope, yellowed with age. Inside was a note Danielle had written years ago, one I had never fully read. "I am doing this to protect you," it said. "Please forgive me one day." At the time, I thought it was just guilt. Now it felt like a warning. The truth was not finished yet. I could feel it. Danielle called me late one night. Her voice was shaky. "He found me again," she said. My heart raced. "Who?" "The man I told you about," she whispered. "He knows I've been talking to you." Something cold settled in my chest. "What does he want?" I asked. She was quiet for a moment. Then she said something that changed everything. "He says the truth will destroy all of us." That was when I knew. Whatever she had hidden for 15 years was bigger than fear. It was bigger than shame. And I was no longer sure that protecting the past was protecting anyone at all. After Danielle's call that night, I did not sleep at all. I sat on the edge of my bed until morning, fully dressed, staring at the door like it might open on its own. Fear has a quiet sound when you're older. It is not loud or dramatic. It is heavy. It sits in your chest and does not move. I kept thinking about what she said. The truth will destroy all of us. By sunrise, I knew one thing for sure. Whatever she was hiding could not stay buried anymore. Later that day, I asked Danielle to meet me, not at a cafe, not in public, at my house. She hesitated. I could hear it in her breathing. "I don't think that's a good idea," she said. "I do," I replied gently, "and I need you to trust me." She arrived just before sunset. The house looked the same as it always had, clean, quiet, full of old memories. She stood at the doorway for a long moment before stepping inside. "I never thought I'd be back here," she whispered. I nodded. Neither did I. We sat across from each other at the kitchen table, the same table where we once planned birthdays, the same table where we once argued about bills, the same table where she left a note and never came back. She kept her purse on her lap, hands gripping it tightly. "Before you say anything else," I said, "I need the whole truth." She closed her eyes. "I was hoping you wouldn't ask that," she replied softly. I did not raise my voice. I did not rush her. "I've waited 15 years," I said. "I can wait a little longer, but I need honesty now." She took a deep breath, then another. "The man I told you about," she said. "His name is Leonard." The name felt heavy the moment she said it. "He wasn't just someone from my past," she continued. "He is the father of my first child." The room went completely still. My ears rang. My heart slowed in a way that scared me. "You had a child?" I asked. She nodded, tears filling her eyes. "I was very young. He convinced me to give the baby up. He said I wasn't fit. He said no one would want me." I swallowed hard. "And you never told me," I said. "I was ashamed, and I was afraid you would leave if you knew." I sat back in my chair, trying to breathe through the weight of it. "But that's not why I left," she added quickly. "I left because Leonard came back with proof." "Proof of what?" I asked. "That the child didn't go where I was told," she said. "He kept the baby." My chest tightened. "He threatened to tell you everything," she continued, her voice shaking. "He said if I stayed, he would come for the kids, for you." I rubbed my face slowly. "So you ran," I said. "Yes," she whispered. "I thought distance would keep you safe." The truth sat between us like something alive. "Where is this child now?" I asked quietly. She shook her head. "I don't know," she said. "He disappeared again years ago." I thought about Marcus, about Aaliyah, about the years they grew up without their mother. "Do they know?" I asked. "No," she said quickly. "They don't. Please don't tell them." I felt something shift inside me then. Not anger, not pity, clarity. "They deserve truth," I said calmly, "even if it hurts." She broke down then. Her shoulders shook as she cried into her hands. "I was trying to protect everyone," she said through tears, "but I only made it worse." I did not move to comfort her right away. Sometimes comfort comes after understanding. A knock on the door startled us both. I stood up slowly and walked to the door. Marcus stood there. "I felt like I should come," he said quietly. Danielle froze. He looked past me and saw her sitting at the table. For a moment, no one spoke. Then Marcus stepped inside. "So, this is the truth you've been avoiding." Danielle looked at him with tears in her eyes. "Yes," she whispered. "This is it." Marcus did not shout. He did not accuse. He sat down across from her. "You left us," he said, "and we grew up without you." "I know," she replied, "and I will carry that forever." There was a long silence. Then Marcus asked the question I had not been brave enough to ask. "Did you ever plan to come back?" Danielle nodded slowly. "Every day," she said, but fear kept winning. That night, the truth did not fix everything. It did not erase pain, but it opened a door that had been locked for 15 years. And for the first time, I felt something I had not felt in a long time. Not peace, but honesty. That night did not end with hugs or easy forgiveness. Real life rarely does. Marcus stayed quiet for a long time. He listened more than he spoke. I could see the years of questions moving through his eyes, one memory at a time. Aaliyah arrived later, after Marcus called her. She walked in slowly, already knowing this was not an ordinary visit. She looked at Danielle and stopped. "So it's true," she said softly. "You really left?" Danielle stood up, hands trembling. "I did," she replied, "and I am sorry in ways words cannot reach." Aaliyah did not cry. She did not shout. She just nodded once and sat down. "I spent years thinking it was my fault," she said, "that I wasn't enough reason for you to stay." Danielle covered her mouth. "No," she whispered, "it was never you." But the damage had already lived its life. We talked for hours, slowly, carefully. There were pauses where no one spoke. There were moments when the only sound was the clock on the wall, ticking like it always had. Danielle told them everything about the fear, about Leonard, about the child she lost and never stopped thinking about. Marcus asked questions with a calm voice that carried deep hurt. Aaliyah asked fewer questions, but each one went straight to the heart. "Did you love us?" she asked. Danielle did not hesitate. "Yes," she said, "every single day." That answer did not heal everything, but it mattered. As the night grew quiet, something small but important happened. Marcus stood up and said, "I need time, but I don't want lies anymore." Aaliyah nodded. "I don't know what this makes us," she said, "but I don't want silence either." Danielle cried again, but this time they stayed. No one walked away. In the days that followed, nothing magically became easy. Trust does not return just because truth arrives. But we started again, slowly, carefully. Short phone calls, simple check-ins, no pressure. Some days were heavy, some days were quiet, but the waiting was over. One afternoon, Danielle visited the old park where we used to take the kids. She sat on the bench and watched families pass by. "I missed so much," she said. "Yes," I replied, "but you're here now." She nodded. "I can't change the past," she said, "but I want to be honest in whatever future you allow me." That was all she could offer. And we learned something important then. Forgiveness is not a moment. It is a process. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like conversation. Sometimes it looks like simply staying when it would be easier to leave. 15 years ago, she left because fear spoke louder than love. Now, truth had finally spoken, and while it did not erase the pain, it gave us something better than answers. It gave us choice. Choice to rebuild. Choice to heal. Choice to carry the past without letting it destroy what was left. Some people think waiting for the truth is a waste of time. But I learned this: the truth always arrives when we are strong enough to hold it. And sometimes the greatest healing does not come from fixing what broke, but from finally understanding why it did.